Good afternoon. Welcome you all back to the second session. It's my pleasure to introduce another eminent speaker, Dr. Ravikumar M. Sir. I welcome you, sir. Sir pursued his PhD degree in telecommunications from IIT Kharagpur. Sir is currently working at Malviya National Institute of Technology, Jaipur, Rajasthan. His area of research interests are optical communication, optoelectronics, optical switching and materials, daylighting, visible light communications. Sir guided one PhD scholar, more than 15 MTech theses, and currently supervising 6 PhD scholars. His research project titled Integrated Optics Device for Visible Light Communication was funded by the DT Funding Agency. His MTech and research was backed a scholarship by MHRD. He also received the Vishwashraya Young Faculty Fellowship for research given by Media Lab Asia, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology by the Government of India. He published more than 25 publications in SCI journals. We are grateful to have you here, sir. I welcome you once again.
Yeah.
Sir, you can continue the session now. Sir?
So,
Ravi sir, you can continue.
yeah, thanks for inviting me. I hope this would be a fruitful session for the audience. So, what I'm here to talk about is what are the current research trends in visible light communications. Uh, what all things I'll be covering? What is visible light communication? Uh, this is the fundamental application that visible light communication is meant for. So we have LEDs, which we are using presently for illumination, and in the near future, these can also be used for communication. So that's what is the future. And this is an unlicensed spectrum, so we can see the savings that we have. So this can reduce the bandwidth load on other frequencies. So it's so the other frequencies can be used wherever necessary. So with this technology, the data rates are expected to be much higher. So this is an example of how visible light communication can connect with different types of devices.
Good morning.
So what is the current technology and what are the challenges? As of 2014, there was a publication which mentioned we can have visible light communication using a single LED, which implements OFDM for getting the data onto the optical channel. This is about, I'm mostly concentrating on the transmitter because that's what I would be discussing more again later on. And in 2019, there's a paper on common anode 5-color LED underwater VLC. So with this, we can have 14.6 Gbps data rate. And this is a very basic WDM technology. We have a 5-color, it's a single LED. That's what is meant by common anode. The anode is same, but the cathodes are different. So we can say it's a single substrate multi-LED. A single substrate multi-LED which is giving a data rate of 14.6 Gbps. So that's where the technology is proceeding. And even what we see with the LEDs, we have 3 Gbps and 14.6 Gbps. So this data rates may not be enough in the near future. So there's another technology which is development of LEDs with a higher modulation bandwidth that had come up in 2018. That had a modulation bandwidth of 1.5 gigahertz. So these are what are presently available. Now, coming should I continue? I'm getting some noise. It's all right? Okay. So, the data rate which we would be needing in maybe 5 or 10 years time would be of the order of some terabits per second. So this technology, that is visible light communication, has the potential to give that types of data rates. And of course, the challenge that we have is mobility. If I am accessing this visible light communication channel and I move from one point to another, what would happen to the connectivity? That is an issue which needs to be sorted. And most of the technology which is being discussed right now in IEEE or Science Direct, wherever you would search, most of this concerns the downlink. And even the data rate that you see of 3 Gbps or 14.6 Gbps, this is one-way transfer. And if we are thinking about VLC, we have data coming from the overhead light, and it falls on the device which we have in our hand or on our laps, and we get the downlink. But what do we do for an uplink? There are many different scenarios which are being explored. Some say that uplink data rate is not necessary to be so high, so the existing Wi-Fi can be used for uplink, and downlink can be used for by using VLC. So that is one option. But there are other options also which are being explored, like some other RF frequency bands which can be employed for uplink, or even we can think about the terahertz communication. Even terahertz communication is an option for. It's actually a competing technology with visible light communication, and it's possible that both may coexist. So, depending on what is the development in the two fields, both may coexist, or one of them may come before the other. So, coming to the optical transmission, this optical wireless communication is what is the broad area. And under this optical wireless communication, we have LEDs for short range indoor communication, which is the visible light communication. And the other part is the use of lasers in free space optical communication. So this FSO communication is another area which is also being explored by many researchers. And this is targeting point-to-point rooftop communication. So if I have a transmitter on my rooftop, I can send that signal up to a distance of 1 or 2 kilometers as of the technology which is available now. So that is another field which is coming up. We can have VLC, we can also have FSO. So and both of these are coming under the combined head of optical wireless communications. And another research challenge that we have is the DWDM, the dense wavelength division multiplexing. So everybody must have heard of WDM and DWDM. The range of wavelengths which can be covered for DWDM vary from 350 nanometers to 1750 nanometers. So this is a very wide range. And if you even consider 1 nanometer per wavelength, then we have 1400 wavelengths which we can use for transmission. And even if we use, say, 1 nanometer for or 1 nanometer as a guard band, even then we will end up with 700 channels. So 700 channels, and with existing technology, each wavelength can carry data rates of the order of 40 Gbps. quite easily. And 40 Gbps multiplied by 700, we are already going up to the terabits per second range. So one needs to just think about how visible light communication can be used in a DWDM scenario. So here you can see that the closest one has come up is with 5 color LEDs, which uses 14.6 Gbps. So there is a potential which can go up to TBps, but that has not come up till now. So there's a wide scope. So the optical sources which are commonly used for optical wireless communications are LEDs, or not exactly which are used, but which can be used. So these are again open problems. DWDM LEDs are not existing. Can we have a DWDM LED, meaning multiple LEDs on a single substrate? Similarly, DWDM lasers would refer to multiple lasers on a single substrate. So multiple lasers or multiple LEDs would be referring to multiple wavelengths. So if we have such a scenario, we can easily target, or we can easily achieve this terabits per second data rates. And the modulation, usually we have direct modulation or external modulation. Direct modulation is what is presently being used for visible light communications or free space optical communications. And external modulation is a topic which is not being explored much in present day for VLC or FSO. External modulation is an existing technology for fiber optic communication. So me and my students have started working on this modulation problem also. So this is a fundamental idea of how direct modulation works, and the electrical signal can consist of OFDM signals which can enhance the data rates. So and this is the basic idea of how we can get external modulation. And using this external modulation, when we have an external modulator, in this scenario, it is possible with the existing modulators to generate data rates of the order of 40 Gbps. So this is a possibility. So, but how do we integrate it in a free space environment or a wireless environment? So that is a very tricky problem. And this particular slide identifies why an electro-optic modulator is necessary. So the first 4 points tell us the advantages that we actually get from direct modulation, and the last point highlights why we have the necessity of an electro-optic modulator, such that we can have higher data rates. So this is the basic concept of an electro-optic modulator. We have an electro-optic material in which light is propagating, and depending on the electric field which we apply, the light output will change. So if you have taken a course on optical communications, you would be familiar with the linear electro-optic effect or the Focal's effect, and the change in refractive index which we get because of this. So these are some common the electro-optic materials which have decent coefficient of refractive index change. So among these, the potassium dihydrogen phosphate is one of the common materials which is which you will find in many fiber optic books, and lithium niobate is also another material which is commonly found. Potassium niobate is not a common material. potassium niobate is a material which is existing. It has a very high coefficient of refractive index change, but getting it in the form of a substrate is a problem, and hence it's not that widely in use. So the most popular material of choice which we see in fiber optic communication is lithium niobate, and this is the basic design that one follows for a modulator, an electro-optic modulator. We have a 3 dB coupler followed by a waveguide and again a 3 dB coupler. So if we have light coming in from one port, the 3 dB coupler would split the light onto both the ports. So if we have light of say 1 milliwatt coming here, then I can expect around or slightly less than half milliwatt here and slightly less than half milliwatt here. Because I mentioned slightly less because there is some inherent insertion loss associated with any of the device. Now the shaded region that you see here, this region is what is known as or is what is used to apply the electric field. We apply a field or a voltage so that the refractive index of this particular waveguide would change. So there are different ways of applying this electric field. We can apply the electric field only on one arm so that we have a phase change in the two arms at the end. And if the phase change here that we induce is equal to pi by 2, then we have destructive interference and we get the output at with destructive interference, we will not get any output here. And if there is no phase change, then we will be getting an output here. So that's the way the electro-optic modulator, and this is the basic design, which is also known as the Mach-Zehnder modulator. So this Mach-Zehnder modulator is in use since a long time, and one of my students, Ms. Poonam, she has been working on how we can integrate this with daylight. So this is the basic idea. Daylight refers to the sunlight that we have. So this can be used during the daytime, and we can switch to lasers or LEDs at night. So that is one way of using this communication. So we can have some saving of energy. But we cannot use the daylight as it is. So we need to filter it and give it to the modulator. If we do not filter it, there will be multiple wavelengths which would fall on the modulator, and all these wavelengths would interfere with each other, and we will not be getting the desired output. So an optical filter is a necessary element here which can give the necessary or the desired wavelength to the modulator. So this is a design which was simulated on MATLAB. So we have daylight and we have a thin film interference filter, and then we have the Mach-Zehnder modulator. So here we have the electrodes which induce a phase shift in this particular arm, and accordingly we will get output switching between A2 and B2. So these are the results which we get. We can have of course these are results based on the standard solar spectrum which is available on the web. So the spectral irradiance of the solar spectrum, that is the output of the first port, that comes in units of watt per meter square per nanometer. And at a wavelength of 520 nanometers, we come up to about 2.3 watts per meter square per nanometer. And at the output of the second port, we get a power which is of the order of 2 into 10 to the minus 3 watts per meter square per nanometer. So based on these results, we have calculated that the insertion loss is of 0.0037 dB, and this is very low compared to other electro-optic modulators. And the extinction ratio is found to be of the order of 25.6898 dB, and this is also very good. And the half wave voltage which we need to get this switching of the output from one port to the other is 5.0186 volts. So this is very much in the reasonable range, and this can be used for visible light communications. But of course, there are a lot of problems. How do we fabricate such type of a device? So that is still an open problem. We are working on it. We are thinking about ways about how we can streamline, or how we can even reduce the length of this Mach-Zehnder modulator such that we can get the good data rates, but also it becomes simpler to fabricate. So we are working on it, and these are some of the future work that it is indeed center of attraction because of the high data rate that that is the potential that it has. And how do we get a complete VLC link, meaning both uplink and downlink? So if it is possible, then the RF can be utilized for other applications. And we see that the simulated results are good, but of course the fabrication is an issue. And these are some of the references. So if any one of you is really interested in working on this further, then the first 3 references on this slide, these would be very helpful. So these are more like standard references, and these can put you on a path which can give good results in future. So these are some more references, and thanks for listening. I kept it short so that I would be able to answer any queries that you may have. So yeah, any questions? How do I? The audio is not coming clearly. Do we have a chat screen where the questions can be posted? Yeah, I see there is a chat screen. So interested, I think those who want to chat screen. I'm waiting. Okay, I don't have any postdoctoral opportunity as of now. Working principle of multicolor LED. Working principle meaning, would you like? This is might. You want to know about means how a multicolor LED is fabricated, or how is it used? Okay, I've not gone through the fabrication stages, but one of my students is working on fabrication of LEDs. He has actually fabricated an LED, but it's not a multicolor LED. So there are multiple options which are available. like means what I'm talking about is ideas. I do not have, or I have not exactly worked on multicolor LED. We can have the same substrate, and at different locations, different small locations, we can have different dopants. If we have different dopants, the wavelength would change. So that is one way of how we can have a multicolor LED. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. My contact details are anyway available on MNIT website. So if anyone would like to have any further information later on, you can go through this website, and in each department you can put in the name. Yeah, I think since there are no other questions, we can. Thank you, ma'am.